My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old, and for the last 4 years, I've been paying the mortgage on my parents' house. They never called it that. They called it help, they called it family. They called me whenever something was due. That Thursday night, I came home from work to my one-bedroom apartment in Albany, with cold takeout noodles and a headache sitting behind my eyes. I kicked off my heels, dropped my bag on the chair, and opened Instagram while the microwave spun in circles. The first post on my feed was from my younger sister, Sophia. She stood on a rooftop under golden lights, one hand over her mouth, the other stretched forward to show off a diamond ring the size of gilt. Her fiancé, Daniel, grinned beside her. My mother was crying. My father had an arm around Daniel like he'd finally gotten the child he wanted. Around them stood cousins, neighbors, church friends, people I barely knew. Everyone dressed up. Everyone smiling. Everyone there. The caption read, "Said yes, parentheses, surrounded by everyone who matters tonight." I stared at the words. Then I saw the top comment, "My mother. A mother's heart is full tonight." A second comment below it, "Nothing missing anymore." The room went very quiet. Not because I was shocked, because I finally understood. I had not been forgotten. I had been removed. The microwave beeped 3 times. I didn't move. 6 days earlier, I had sent their monthly mortgage payment, $2,380. 3 weeks earlier, I had transferred another $5,000 because Mom said things were tight right now. Dad needed repairs. The bank was being difficult. There were fees. There were always fees. But apparently there was enough money for a rooftop engagement party, violin music, and champagne. Just not enough room for me. My fingers moved before my feelings did. Beautiful ring. Mortgage is yours now. I hit send. Then I set the phone face down on the counter and listened to my own breathing. 5 seconds later, it buzzed. Then again. Then again. By the time I picked it up, the post was gone. Deleted. My notifications looked like a fire alarm. 12 missed calls, then 19, then 27. Mom. Mom. Sophia. Dad. Mom again. Texts poured in. "What is wrong with you? Call me now. You embarrassed your sister. Take that comment down immediately. How could you do this tonight?" I laughed. Because one honest sentence had caused more urgency than 4 years of sacrifice. My phone rang again. "Mom." I answered. "Emily?" She snapped. "What were you thinking?" I was thinking everyone who matters can probably cover the mortgage. Silence. Then the inhale she always took before becoming the victim. "You are jealous," she said. "Your sister is having the happiest night of her life." I wasn't invited. That is not the point. There it was, the family motto. Truth was never the point. Image was. There were 80 people there, I said. It was a small gathering. I counted 2 neighbors and your hairdresser. "You're being cruel." "No, I'm being accurate." Her voice dropped into the soft tone she used when manipulation needed perfume. "Emily, why must everything become about you?" I looked around my apartment. The thrift store couch, the chipped coffee table, the second-hand lamp. Every object in that room had been bought with my own money. Meanwhile, the house they lived in was still standing partly because of me. "It was never about me," I said quietly. "That's the problem." I hung up. 30 seconds later, Sophia called. I answered. She sounded breathless and furious. "Are you happy now?" "I just got home." "You ruined my engagement post." "No," I commented on it. "You always do this," she snapped. "You make everything ugly. You made it expensive." "Oh my God. You're pathetic." "Unemployed." "You're bitter because no one chose you." The old version of me would have cried quietly after that. The new one felt strangely calm. "No," I said. "I'm free because I finally chose myself." I ended the call. Then I turned off my phone. The apartment fell silent. I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet and waited for tears. None came. Instead, something far rarer arrived. There is a moment when pain stops being pain and becomes clarity. When the thing that breaks your heart finally breaks your illusion. I stood up, walked to the counter, and opened my banking app. There it was. Recurring payment. Carter mortgage. Next withdrawal, in 3 days. I already came around, I said. I just walked past the lie. He said nothing. That evening, Sophia emailed me from another account. Subject line, "You win." I opened it. Inside, "I hope you're proud. Mom cries every day, Dad looks 10 years older, Daniel's family thinks we're unstable. The venue won't hold our date. You finally got what you wanted." No apology, no ownership. Even in collapse, I was the villain. I replied with one sentence. "No, Sophia, I got what I stopped paying for." Then, blocked that account too. Later that night, I sat by the window with tea and thought about the word chosen. Sophia wore it like jewelry, proof she mattered more, but chosen by whom? A mother who loved control? A father who feared conflict? Strangers online who liked filtered photos? A fiancé attracted to appearances? That kind of choosing was not victory. It was dependency dressed as admiration. My phone buzzed one last time. Voicemail only. Mom's voice, tight with rage. "You've turned your sister's happiest season into humiliation. I hope someday someone does this to you." I deleted it before she finished. Then I sat in silence. There comes a point in healing when insults stop working, because the speaker no longer has authority inside you. Across town, Sophia was still posting that she was chosen, but for the first time in my life, I was no longer available to be used. 3 weeks later, the house officially entered foreclosure. I didn't hear it from my parents. I saw it in public records. There it was in plain black text. Property address. Legal filing date. Default status. Years of denial reduced to paperwork anyone could read. I stared at the screen longer than I expected. That house had held every version of me. The child who tried harder. The teenager who stayed quiet. The woman who kept paying. Now it belonged to deadlines and signatures. I told myself I was taking the long way to the grocery store. People lie to themselves most gently when pain is nearby. The lawn was overgrown. A notice envelope was taped near the front door. The porch paint had begun to peel. Mom stood outside in slippers, speaking angrily into her phone. Even from the street, I knew the posture. Blame with mascara. Dad sat on the front steps, elbows on knees, staring at nothing. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically. Spiritually. Sophia's car was gone. Of course it was. I kept driving. That night, someone knocked on my apartment door. Slow. Careful. I opened it. Dad stood there holding an old duffel bag. Snow clung to his coat. For a second, I barely recognized him. He looked thinner, tired in the way sleep cannot fix. "Hi, kiddo," he said softly. I hadn't heard that word in years. I stepped aside. He entered quietly, looking around as if seeing my life for the first time. The bookshelf, the small dining table, the framed certificate from work he had never asked about. The piece. "This is nice," he said. "It's mine." He nodded. We sat in silence. I made tea. His hands shook slightly around the mug. Finally he spoke. "Your mother doesn't know I'm here." That did not surprise me. "Did she send you?" "No." A pause. "She'd be furious." That sounds familiar. He almost smiled, then didn't. "I came because—" He swallowed. "Because I should have come years ago." I said nothing. Regret deserves room, not rescue. He looked down at the tea. "I kept peace with your mother so long. I forgot the difference between peace and cowardice." The room went still. I had imagined apologies before. None sounded like that. "She was hard on you," he continued. "And every time I told myself it was easier not to fight." He rubbed his thumb against the mug. "Easier to smooth it over later." His eyes lifted to mine. "Later became your whole life." My throat tightened. Maybe because truth once opened is hard to close. When your science ribbon got put in the drawer, I noticed. I blinked. "The blue ribbon?" She nodded. "I meant to hang it up after dinner." A sad laugh escaped him. "I never did." Tears burned unexpectedly. Not because of the ribbon. Because he remembered. He remembered and still did nothing. "When you paid the first mortgage month, he said. I told myself it was temporary. When your mother used your money for Sophia's engagement, I told myself it would calm down after. When she changed the will, he stopped. I stared at him. You knew. He nodded once, slowly, shamefully. I knew. Pain can sleep inside you for years. Then one sentence wakes all of it. You let me pay for a house being promised to someone else. He closed his eyes. Yes. I stood and walked to the window. Snow fell over the parking lot in soft white sheets. Some betrayals scream, others answer gently and destroy more completely. Behind me, his voice cracked. I don't expect forgiveness. Good, because I did not have it ready. I came to say I was wrong, he whispered. And because your mother still thinks this is about money. I turned. And you? I know it's about you. That nearly broke me. Not because it fixed anything. Because it was the first accurate sentence he had ever chosen over comfort. He looked down at the duffel bag. She told me, if I wanted to apologize to you, I could leave. I stared. She kicked you out? He gave a tired shrug. Seems fairness finally visited. I sat down again. The old reflex rose immediately. Fix it, solve it, rescue everyone. I recognized the reflex now, and let it pass. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. He meant it. That was new too. I just didn't want the last thing between us to be silence. We sat there with the radiator humming between us. Then, I asked the question I had carried for years. Did you ever love me the same? His face folded instantly. Oh, Emily. He leaned forward. Yes. Tears filled his eyes. Yes, I was just too weak to make it visible. That was not enough. But it was true. And truth, even late, still has value. I took out my phone. There's an apartment building 2 blocks from the park, I said. Older units. Safe enough. He stared at me. I'm not moving in with you. I know. I opened the leasing site. I'll cover the deposit and 3 months. Nothing more. His lips trembled. You don't owe me that. No, I said. I owe myself boundaries. This fits inside them. He cried then, quietly, like a man grieving the version of himself he should have been. The next day, I helped him move. 1 duffel bag, 2 boxes, a toolbox, 3 framed photos, none of me. I noticed, said nothing. The apartment was small. Brown carpet, old cabinets, a window facing bare trees. Dad stood in the center of the room, as if unsure whether to thank me or apologize again. Don't do both, I said. He nodded. At the door, he whispered, You're better than I deserved. I looked to him for a long moment. No, I said gently, I'm just done being less than I deserved. Then I left. I did not bring him home with me. I did not go back to the house. I did not call my mother. Some endings are not dramatic. They are simply doors closing quietly behind the truth. Spring came slowly that year. Snow melted into gray slush. Trees stood bare for weeks before trusting the light again. I understood that. Some recoveries happen quietly underground, long before anything green appears. Dad settled into the apartment better than I expected. He found part-time maintenance work at a community center. Nothing glamorous. Fixing doors, changing filters, carrying boxes for younger men who thanked him politely. Never asking for money. Never asking me to mediate anything. Sometimes he told me about squirrels stealing from the trash bins. Sometimes about a woman on the 3rd floor who overwatered every plant she owned. Sometimes we talked about nothing at all. Those were our best conversations. Without my mother's gravity, he became easier to know. Not heroic, not transformed, just human. The house sold in May. Below market value. Legal pressure does that. I found out through another public notice and felt only a distant ache. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just the strange sadness of watching a monument to dysfunction become someone else's starter home. I drove by once. Fresh mulch lined the flower beds. The porch had been repainted. 2 children's bikes leaned near the garage. I hoped whoever lived there would fill the rooms with kinder habits. Mom moved into a condo rental across town. Sophia moved in with Daniel for 6 weeks, then moved out again when wedding plans needed space. That phrase made me laugh. Their engagement ended the way many image-based things do, expensively. Sophia posted one final quote card. "What's meant for you won't miss you." Then disappeared from social media for a month. Silence was the healthiest thing she had ever worn. Mom called twice that spring. I let both go to voicemail. The first message was anger, the second was performance. "I miss my family." Neither contained the words I once waited years to hear. "I'm sorry." So, I deleted both. Some people think healing requires reconciliation. Sometimes healing is simply refusing another invitation to be harmed. Work changed, too. With money no longer leaking into family emergencies, my savings grew quickly. I maxed my retirement account, paid off the last of my student loans, bought a better sofa. Took a weekend trip to Vermont because I wanted to see mountains without anyone needing something from me. Freedom can look embarrassingly ordinary. A paid bill, a quiet Saturday, an untouched phone. In June, I signed papers on a townhouse 20 minutes outside Albany. Small, sunny kitchen. 2 bedrooms. A narrow backyard barely big enough for herbs. Mine. No cosigner, no family opinions, no hidden expectations attached to the keys. The day I moved in, Nora arrived with pizza and 3 bottles of cheap champagne. She walked through the front door, looked around, and whistled. "Well," she said, "look at this." "What?" "A home financed entirely by boundaries." I laughed so hard I nearly cried. Later that evening, after she left, I unpacked dishes in the kitchen while sunlight spilled across the counters. I opened every cabinet just because I could. Placed cups where I wanted, moved plates twice. There is something sacred about making decisions no one punishes. Dad visited a month later. He brought a toolbox and tightened every loose hinge in the house. When he finished, we sat on the back step, drinking iced tea. He looked at the herb boxes near the fence. "You always could grow things," he said. I smiled. "Not where I started." He nodded slowly. "I know." We sat in silence. Then he said, "Your mother still says you abandoned us." I took a sip of tea. "And what do you say?" He looked out at the yard. "I say we abandoned you first." The truth no longer felt like a knife, just weather finally named correctly. Sophia texted me once in late summer from a new number. "Do you ever think maybe this all went too far?" I replied, "Yes, years before I stopped paying." Then, blocked the number. By autumn, life had become almost boring. I loved it. I grocery shopped without doing math for other households. I slept through the night. I bought towels because I liked the color. I hosted co-workers for dinner, and no one insulted me in my own kitchen. Peace is not dramatic. That is why people undervalue it until they have fought wars to earn it. One cold evening near the first snow, I found an old family photo inside a moving box. All of us, standing in front of the old house. Mom smiling tightly, Sophia in the center, Dad slightly behind everyone, me at the far edge, shoulder half cropped out. I studied it for a long time. Then I laughed, not bitterly, tenderly, because that woman at the edge of the frame had no idea she would one day step fully into her own life. I placed the photo in a drawer. Not displayed, not destroyed, archived, exactly where the past belonged. That night, I stood at my kitchen window, watching snow fall over my backyard. The room behind me was warm. My phone was silent. My bills were paid. No one had a key but me. I thought about everything I had lost, then about everything I had stopped losing. And I finally understood something no one in my family ever taught me. Love that must be purchased is not love. Peace that must be protected is worth every price. They chose my sister, so I chose myself. I stared at it. 4 years of transfers. 4 years of panic calls. 4 years of being useful, mistaken for being loved. I clicked cancel recurring payment. The app asked, "Are you sure?" For the first time in years I was. I pressed confirm. A green notification appeared. Payment series ended successfully. That was it. No dramatic music, no thunder, no revenge speech. Just one small message on a glowing screen. They were still celebrating under lights I had helped pay for. They just didn't know yet. The lights had already started to go out. People think favoritism in families is obvious. They imagine shouting, cruel punishments, one child openly loved while the other is openly rejected. Sometimes it looks like that. Most of the time, it looks softer, more dangerous. It looks like excuses, extra chances, a warmer smile, patience for one child, pressure for the other. Sophia was 3 years younger than me, but in our house, she was always first. When I was 8, I won first place at a state science fair. I carried home a blue ribbon like treasure. Mom glanced at it and said, "That's nice." Then she lowered her voice. "Don't wave it around. Sophia's upset." Sophia had cried because her teacher corrected her spelling. That night my ribbon disappeared into a kitchen drawer. 2 days later, Sophia drew a crooked family portrait, in crayon, stick figures with giant heads, and purple grass. Mom framed it, hung it in the hallway, called relatives to admire her little artist. I remember standing there, staring at the wall. Even then, I understood the rules. My success was expected. Her effort was extraordinary. At 12, I asked to attend a summer math camp. It cost $200. Dad said money was tight. 3 weeks later, Sophia got a brand new bike because she needs confidence. I got my first part-time job bagging groceries. Mom told neighbors I was so independent. What she meant was convenient. I bought my own school clothes, my own supplies, sometimes groceries. At 16, Sophia forgot a school project and got a C. Mom stormed into the school demanding fairness. When I got a 98 in chemistry, she asked where the missing 2 points went. Christmas was always the clearest example. Sophia tore through piles of gifts. Perfume, boots, jewelry, gift cards. I got one practical box. A sweater, socks, a planner. Mom would smile and say, "You're easier to shop for." No, I was easier to neglect. Dad noticed more than he admitted. I know that now. Sometimes I'd catch guilt moving across his face, like a passing cloud. But he almost never intervened. If Mom forgot my school concert, he'd say she was busy. If Sophia ruined my clothes, he'd say she admired me. If I looked hurt, he'd say let it go. His answer to unfairness was always endurance. Mine became silence. I had learned something dangerous. Asking for fairness made me the problem. So I became low maintenance. I filled out college applications alone, applied for scholarships at the public library, worked nights and weekends. When I got accepted to SUNY Albany with partial tuition, I stood in the kitchen shaking with excitement. Mom barely looked up from cooking. "That's far." Sophia laughed from the table. "You'll come back in a month." Dad asked how much housing would cost. I told him. Mom sighed dramatically. "We'll see." What they saw instead was Sophia's cheer competition in Florida 6 weeks later. Flights, hotel, matching outfits. When I asked about my deposit deadline, Mom frowned like I was rude. "Why are you always keeping score?" "Because no one else was." I took loans, worked 2 jobs, moved into a dorm room with a mattress thin enough to feel every spring. I cried once. Not because it was hard, because I had spent my whole childhood proving I needed less. And they believed me. Distance changed geography, not hierarchy. Whenever I came home, Sophia still sat in the center of the couch, like royalty. Meals adjusted to her preferences, schedules bent around her moods. If she was tired, everyone whispered. If I was tired, I was asked to run errands. When I got my first real finance job, Mom called. I thought she was proud. Instead, she said, "Don't tell your sister how much you make. She's in a fragile place." Sophia had quit another job after 3 months because her manager was negative. At 29, Sophia got engaged for the first time. It lasted 6 months. My parents paid deposits they never recovered. When I suggested maybe she slow down next time, Mom said, "Not everyone wants to live a cold little spreadsheet life." That phrase stayed with me, because underneath it was the oldest insult in families like ours. If you survive without them, they'd punish you for it. Sophia's chaos kept her important. My stability made me optional. People ask why I kept helping, why I kept sending money, why I kept answering every crisis call. Because children raised on conditional love often become adults who confuse usefulness with belonging. Every transfer carried hope. Maybe this time Mom would thank me. Maybe this time Dad would speak up. Maybe this time Sophia would see me as family. But systems built over decades do not change because one person behaves better. They only change when one person stops participating. That Thursday night, after I canceled the mortgage, I opened an old photo folder. There we were, at a lake, years ago. Mom, leaning into Sophia. Dad smiling beside them. Me at the far edge of the frame. Half my shoulder, cropped out. I laughed softly. Even the camera knew. By the time I turned 30, my family had perfected a ritual. They never called when life was good. They called when something was due. The first few seconds were always warm. Hi, sweetheart, how's work? Then came the pause. Then the real reason. The roof is leaking again. We're just short this month. Sophia had an emergency. Could I help? Always temporary. Always urgent. Always framed like I was the only person standing between them and disaster. And most of the time I was. The first large transfer happened when Dad lost his construction job. Mom called crying. We may lose the house. I was 29, finally earning enough to breathe. After years of student loans and overtime, I wired $3,000 before lunch. Dad texted, "Thanks, kiddo." Mom sent nothing. That became the pattern. My help arrived, gratitude did not. 6 months later, Mom's credit cards were maxed out. Groceries, medical copays, unexpected expenses. I paid 2 balances and negotiated the third. She later told relatives she had figured things out. I said nothing. The winter after that, their furnace died. Albany Cold does not care about pride. I bought a replacement unit. That same weekend, Sophia posted photos from a ski resort. Caption: needed this getaway. Mom commented, "You deserve joy." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I paid the heating invoice. At family dinners, none of this was ever mentioned. Money flowed from me like oxygen. Essential. Invisible. Instead, every conversation centered around Sophia. Sophia's stress, Sophia's dating life, Sophia's skincare business, Sophia's candle business, Sophia's anxiety, Sophia's gluten sensitivity, Sophia's dreams. Mom nodded politely and asked me to pass the salad. If I mentioned travel for work, Sophia yawned dramatically. Dad would ask if I knew anything about refinancing rates. One Thanksgiving, I brought a homemade pecan pie and quietly paid their overdue property taxes online from my phone in the kitchen. Mom tasted the pie and said, "This is surprisingly good." Then whispered, "Can you make sure the tax payment clears tonight?" I wanted to ask whether daughters also had deadlines. Instead, I asked for the account number. There were dozens of smaller rescues: Dad's dental crown, Sophia's car insurance, a plumbing emergency, a lawyer consultation for Mom, tree removal after a storm, last-minute travel for a funeral. I became the emergency fund with a pulse. Friends wondered why I still rented, why I drove a modest car, why I never upgraded my apartment. I joked that I was financially conservative. The truth was uglier. Every time I started building something for myself, someone in my family needed me to patch something for them. Nora noticed before I did. One afternoon, she watched me on hold with a mortgage company during lunch. "Your mortgage?" she asked. "My parents." She blinked. "How long?" "Almost 4 years. Do they pay you back?" I laughed. She didn't. Then she said quietly, "They only love the version of you that pays the bills." I felt defensive immediately. "That's not fair." "No," she said. "What they're doing to you isn't fair." I changed the subject. Truth often sounds rude before it sounds accurate. Still, her words stayed with me. Every time Mom called in that sugary voice, every time Sophia sent a Venmo request with no explanation, every time Dad texted only numbers. Need 1,200 if possible. No hello, no context. Just need. One spring, I tested something. I stopped initiating contact for 30 days. No calls, no check-ins, no how are you. Do you know how many times they contacted me just to talk? 0. On day 31, Mom called. I almost smiled. Maybe I was wrong. I answered. Sweetheart, she said brightly, do you still have access to that low-interest credit line through work? I laughed so hard I had to mute the phone. She sounded offended. What's funny? Nothing. Everything. Another time, I got the flu and spent 3 days feverish in bed. No one noticed. On day 4, Sophia texted, "Can you review this lease? My landlord seems shady." Not, "Are you okay?" Just utility. I reviewed it anyway. People trained to earn love through usefulness do not break habits cleanly. They taper. The mortgage itself began almost accidentally. Dad had fallen behind after a rate adjustment. I offered 1 month. Then, another. Then automatic recurring payments until they got back on their feet. Their feet never seemed to touch the ground again. Whenever guilt appeared, Mom knew how to sharpen it. Family isn't a transaction. We never asked for daughters who keep score. Easy words from people sending one child the bill. Dad once tried to thank me properly. He caught me alone on the porch during a barbecue. "You do more than we deserve," he said. Hope rose in me so quickly, it embarrassed me. Then he added, "Just be patient with your mother. Sophia needs a lot right now." Even gratitude found a way to become about them. That night after the engagement post disappeared and I canceled the mortgage, I searched my email for one phrase. Payment confirmation. Hundreds of receipts appeared. Month after month, transfer after transfer, late fees, escrow shortages, emergency extras, years of invisible devotion in neat digital rows. I started adding the totals, then stopped halfway through. The amount wasn't the point. The point was this. I had spent years funding a family story in which I was barely a supporting character. Outside, snow began to fall. Inside, my phone lay silent on the counter. For the first time in a decade, silence felt expensive and worth every penny. The morning after I canceled the mortgage, I expected guilt. Instead, I felt rested. That alone told me how exhausted I had been. I made coffee, opened the blinds, and watched people hurry through the cold below my apartment. No crisis texts, no missed calls, no emotional emergencies before breakfast. By noon, I turned my phone back on. The peace ended instantly. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. Mom had called 7 times. Sophia, 3. Dad, twice. Then messages. "Call your mother. You owe your sister an apology." This was supposed to be a beautiful memory. I can't believe how selfish you've become. Selfish. That word usually appears the moment useful people stop being useful. At lunch, Nora took one look at me. "You did something brave." I canceled the mortgage. She set down her sandwich slowly. "Emily, please don't make that sound like concern for them. It's admiration for you." I laughed. Then I told her about the post, the deleted comments, the calls, the accusations. When I repeated my mother's line, "This was supposed to be a beautiful memory," Nora raised one eyebrow. "Let me guess," she said. "You paid for part of that memory too." I was ready to deny it. Then 3 separate memories clicked together at once. 3 weeks earlier, Mom had called in tears. "We're in a tight spot. Just temporary. There are fees, and the bank is being difficult." "How much?" "5,000 would stabilize everything." I sent it during a meeting. 2 months before that, Dad had texted asking if I knew any good lighting vendors. I assumed church event. Then 1 week before the engagement, Sophia had posted a manicure photo. Caption: "Big things coming." I suddenly felt cold. That night, I logged into the old shared family cloud drive. Years ago, Dad asked me to organize their household files because I was good with systems. Most folders held tax returns and appliance warranties. Then I saw one labeled, "Venue Final." Inside were contracts, invoices, deposit schedules, rooftop package for 80 guests, premium floral add-on, champagne service, live violinist, professional photography. I stared at the totals. Then I opened another file. Funding notes. It was built on an old budgeting template I had created years earlier. My formatting, my formulas, my system. Someone had reused my work to manage a celebration funded by my labor. Line items read: refi release funds, Emily monthly mortgage coverage, Emily emergency transfer, 5,000, temporary card float. I scrolled lower. A typed note from Mom: if Emily asks, say house costs went up. Another: don't mention venue until after party. Then one from Sophia: she'll make it about herself as she knows. My hands shook, not because I was surprised, because betrayal looks different once it's organized in spreadsheets. I downloaded everything, saved copies, took screenshots. Then I called Dad. He answered on the second ring. Emily, did you know I paid for Sophia's engagement party? Silence. Then, we all contributed. That wasn't the question. It wasn't like that. How was it? Another silence. Your mother wanted one beautiful night for your sister. With my money? It's family money when it helps family. I laughed once. Short, ugly. Then why wasn't I family enough to invite? He exhaled heavily. Please don't do this. There it was again. Whenever truth entered the room, they called it conflict. You know how your mother gets, he said quietly. No, I replied. I know how you get. He said nothing. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Mom called. I answered immediately. How dare you interrogate your father? How dare you use me? We did not use you. You made spreadsheets. That was planning. You hid the venue. That was protecting peace. You took $5,000. That was for the family. No, I said. That was for flowers and champagne. She gasped like I had struck her. You always reduce joy to money. No, I said. I reveal what joy cost. Her voice changed, colder now. This is why people pull away from you, Emily. Everything becomes transactional. I looked around my apartment. The thrift store couch. The cracked side table. The modest life I built while financing theirs. You taught me transactions, I said. You just called them love. I hung up. That evening, Sophia posted again. No photos this time. Just a quote on a beige background. Some people help only to control others. The comments flooded in. Stay strong. Jealous family is the worst. Protect your peace. Victims are easy to believe when they smile attractively enough. I typed nothing. Instead, I opened my savings app. I moved $10,000 from the category I had labeled Family Buffer for years. I renamed it Emily Future Home Fund, then transferred every cent. For the first time, my money had a destination that included me. Before bed, I reread Sophia's note. She'll make it about herself if she knows. I thought, as I turned off the light. You made it about me the moment you spent what I earned. And somewhere across town, under flowers already beginning to wilt, they still believed the worst thing I had done was comment on a photo. 3 nights later, my mother called from an unknown number. I answered because curiosity is sometimes stronger than wisdom. Her voice arrived soft and wounded. Emily, can we speak like adults? We could have started there years ago. Then, the sigh. I don't know who you've become. I know exactly who I've become. We need to clear up misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. Such a polite word for exploitation. As in, I asked, you misunderstanding whose money paid for the engagement party? You are obsessed with money. No, I'm newly interested in honesty. Another pause. Then she changed strategy. Come by tonight. Your father wants peace. Peace. In our family, peace meant I accepted disrespect quietly. I should have said no. Instead, I drove there after work. Some habits survive longer than healing. The house looked exactly the same. White siding, blue shutters, porch light flickering, hydrangeas trimmed perfectly. I had helped save that house so many times, it felt like a patient I knew by heart. Yet standing in the driveway, I felt like a stranger. Sophia's car was parked outside. Of course. The dining table was set with tea and cookies, as if we were normal people discussing weather. Mom wore pearls. Sophia wore expensive loungewear and boredom. Dad stood near the sink, hands in pockets, already apologizing with his posture. No one hugged me. Mom pointed to a chair. Sit. I'm fine standing. Her jaw tightened. We are trying to fix this family. No, I said. You're trying to restore your funding. Sophia rolled her eyes. There she is. Let's all stay calm. No one listened. Mom folded her hands. Emily. We know you're upset. Unclear. You've always been emotional when you feel overlooked. I almost admired the craftsmanship of that sentence. You left me out of your daughter's engagement. It was intimate. There were 80 people. They were mostly Daniel's side. I counted 2 neighbors and your hairdresser. Sophia laughed. You sound insane. You sound expensive. Dad almost smiled before catching himself. Mom shot him a look sharp enough to stop weather. Then she straightened. We didn't invite you, because lately you make things tense. There it was. The confession hidden inside blame. You mean, I ask questions now. You make people uncomfortable. People who lie should be uncomfortable. Sophia crossed her arms. You've always hated when attention wasn't on you. I've never wanted your attention, I said. Only basic respect. Mom tapped the table. We are done discussing the party. There is a larger matter. I waited. She glanced at Dad, then back at me. We updated our estate plans. Sophia smiled into her teacup. My body went still. The house will go to Sophia. No one moved. Then Mom continued in the tone of someone announcing fairness. You are established. You have a career. You rent by choice. You don't need this house. I looked around slowly. The hardwood floors I paid to refinish after the pipe burst, the furnace I bought, the roof I helped replace, the taxes I covered, the mortgage I had paid for 4 years. Need had never mattered when my money was involved. Only when ownership was discussed. Sophia tucked hair behind one ear. I'll keep it in the family. I laughed, a dangerous laugh. I am the family. Mom's expression hardened. Don't be dramatic. I'm being factual. Dad finally spoke. Emily, I turned to him. Here it was. His chance. One honest sentence. One act of courage. He swallowed. Your mother just thinks you're stronger. Sophia needs more security. There it was. The second family rule. The child who survives receives less. The child who demands receives everything. Not because she needs it. Because everyone is afraid of what happens if she doesn't get it. I nodded slowly. Thank you. Mom blinked. For understanding? No, I said. For finally saying it out loud. Sophia scoffed. You're making this ugly. No, I said. You made it clear. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Mortgage confirmations, tax payments, repair invoices, wire transfers, years of invisible daughterhood, in black ink. I placed them on the table, one by one. Dad stared at the papers like crime scene photos. Mom refused to touch them. Sophia looked bored. This, I said quietly, is what I gave to protect a house I was never allowed to belong to. Mom recovered first. No one asked you to do all that. Classic. Use someone for years, then deny the request ever existed. You called monthly. We accepted generosity. You expected obedience. Sophia leaned back. If you gave with strings attached, that's on you. You confused strings with memory. Dad sank into a chair. Older, smaller. Mom stood up. If you're threatening this family over hurt feelings, I'm not threatening anyone. I picked up the folder. I'm informing you. Then I looked directly at her. I canceled the mortgage. The room changed temperature. Sophia sat upright. Dad's face drained. Mom laughed once, sharp and unbelieving. No, you didn't. Yes, you wouldn't. I already did. Her voice rose. You vindictive little. Dad warned weakly. She ignored him. After everything we sacrificed for you. I stepped closer. What exactly was sacrificed for me? No answer. Because facts are rude in families built on fiction. Sophia stood. You can't punish everyone because no one centered you. I met her eyes. I'm not punishing anyone. Then I said the truest sentence of my adult life. I'm simply no longer volunteering. I walked to the door. Mom shouted after me, "You'll regret this." I turned once. I said, I regretted staying. Then I left the house I had funded for years. For the first time, it looked exactly like what it was. Not home, just expensive denial. The first week after that dinner was strangely peaceful. No calls, no guilt messages, no emotional fires for me to put out. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner, slept through the night. I kept waiting for guilt to arrive. Instead, there was quiet. Quiet feels suspicious when chaos has been your normal. So I used it. I cleaned my apartment, donated clothes I never wore, scheduled a dental appointment I had postponed twice because something always comes up. Other people. I increased my retirement contribution, moved money into savings, canceled the category in my budget labeled family buffer. That title alone made me sad. I had built a financial safety net for people who never tried to become safe. On the 8th day, Mom texted. Did something happen with the payment? No hello, no apology, no mention of the dinner, just the missing money. I stared at the screen, then set the phone down. An hour later, please call me. There must be some mistake. 3 hours later, the bank says we are short. At 9:14 p.m., Emily, this is serious. I replied with 2 words. Yes, it is. She called instantly. I let it ring. The next morning, Dad texted, "Can we talk?" I answered, "You could have talked years ago." No response. That Friday, Sophia posted photos from a bridal boutique. Champagne in hand, 3 women laughing around her. Caption, "Blessed season." I zoomed in on the dress tag. $8,000. Then, I closed the app. At work, Nora looked over my shoulder. She's trying on gowns while your parents are sinking? She's protecting her peace, apparently. Nora nearly choked laughing. Tell her to protect their escrow account. I laughed harder than I expected. Healing sometimes arrives wearing sarcasm. That weekend, I did something radical. Nothing. No checking whether Dad had groceries. No wondering if Mom had paid utilities. No calculating late fees in my head. No preparing for emergencies that were not mine. I went to a bookstore, bought 2 novels and an overpriced candle. Walked through a winter market. Ate lunch alone without rushing. Normal people call that Saturday. To me, it felt revolutionary. Sunday night, Mom left a voicemail. Her crying voice was polished and practiced. Emily, the bank keeps calling. They're humiliating us. Your father is beside himself. Please fix this before Monday. Humiliating us. Not, we lied. We used you. We hurt you. Just, we are embarrassed. I deleted it. Monday brought escalation. Mom revived the old family group chat just to perform distress. She posted a photo of a certified envelope. Urgent notice from lender. Then, can someone explain this? As if she didn't know exactly who could. An aunt replied, Emily, maybe call your mother. She sounds upset. Sophia added, some people only care about money now. I stared at the screen, then left the group chat. A minute later, Sophia texted privately. Wow, mature. I blocked her number. That evening, Dad called from a hardware store. I recognized the background announcements. I answered. Emily. His voice sounded tired. They won't give us an extension. They? The mortgage company. I said nothing. He continued. Your mother thought, maybe if we paid half now? With what money? Silence. Then quietly. She thought you'd calm down. There it was again. They believed boundaries were moods. That consequences were tantrums. That self-respect was temporary. I am calm, I said. Then why are you doing this? Because you watched me bleed and called it family. Because Mom excluded me publicly and expected me privately. Because Sophia built celebrations on my labor and called me jealous. Because every kindness became entitlement. But I only said, because I stopped. He exhaled. You know this house means everything to your mother. I looked around my apartment. My lamp. My rented walls. My earned peace. It means something to me too, I said softly. That's why this matters. He didn't understand. Maybe he never would. Tuesday morning, Mom texted again. After all we've done for you? I read it twice. Then replied, please list it. No answer. Families forgive. I wrote back, families don't send one daughter the bill. Blocked. That night, I checked my savings account. The money that would have gone to their mortgage was still there. Then the money from the month before. Then the emergency transfers I would never send again. I watched the balance grow and felt something I had not felt in years. Safety. Not wealth. Safety. Money does not buy happiness, but it can buy distance from people who keep selling you guilt. On Friday, I bought myself a real mattress. Nothing luxurious. Just support. Delivery set for Saturday. I almost cried in the parking lot. I had funded roofs, taxes, repairs, flowers, and champagne before buying myself a decent place to sleep. That night, snow fell heavily. The city went quiet under white streets and amber lights. I made tea and sat by the window. My phone buzzed once from another unknown number. Mom, if anything happens to your father from stress, I hope he can live with yourself. I stared at the message until the tea went cold. Then I blocked that number too. Some people call that coldness. People who have never been used confuse distance with cruelty. But distance was the first kindness I had shown myself in years. Across town, in a house built on my rescue, panic was moving through the walls, and for the first time, I was not coming to save it. By the second month, the crisis could no longer be hidden behind text messages. Late fees became warnings. Warnings became notices. Notices became panic. Consequences are louder than manipulation. I knew things were getting worse because other people started contacting me. Not my parents. People connected to them. My Aunt Carol left a voicemail coded in fake neutrality. Emily, honey, I don't know what's going on, and it's none of my business. That sentence always means the opposite. But your mother seems under terrible strain. Maybe pride is hurting everyone. Pride. Interesting diagnosis. Not lies. Not favoritism. Not exploitation. Pride. I deleted it. Then my cousin Melanie texted. Your mom says you cut them off over a misunderstanding. I replied, no. I cut them off over a pattern. No answer. At work, quarter-end reports swallowed most of my attention. Numbers are merciful that way. They ask for accuracy, not emotional labor. Still, pieces of home chaos kept slipping through. Dad emailed me from an old AOL address. Subject line, please read. Inside were 3 sentences. Your mother isn't sleeping. Sophia postponed the venue deposit. Can we talk? I stared at the middle line. Sophia postponed the venue deposit. So the fairy tale was shaking too. I typed back, you had years to talk, then closed the laptop. That Friday, Sophia posted a smiling selfie in a white spa robe. Caption, protecting my peace during stressful times. I almost admired the nerve. Mortgage unpaid, wedding unstable, house sinking, and she was branding serenity. Comments flooded in. You deserve happiness. Ignore negative energy. Stay glowing queen. My mother commented, so proud of your grace. I set the phone face down. Nora saw my face. Saint Sophia again? I showed her the post. She laughed so hard, she had to wipe tears away. She's at a spa while your parents are in foreclosure? Apparently. Tell her to get a mud mask for the escrow account. I laughed too. Harder than I expected. Sometimes laughter is grief leaving the body. The next week, I received a letter forwarded to my apartment. Because I had been the payment contact for years, some notices still carry my old address. I opened it. Final opportunity to cure delinquency before legal escalation. Amount due? Staggering. Months behind. Fees multiplying. I sat down slowly. I knew they were struggling. Seeing it in numbers made it real. The house was not wobbling. It was sinking. My thumb hovered over Dad's number. Then a memory arrived. Mom, at the dining table. The house will go to Sophia. Emily doesn't need it. My hand lowered. Need works both ways. That Sunday, someone pounded on my apartment door. Sharp. Urgent. I opened it. Mom stood there in a camel coat and outrage. She had never visited my apartment before. Not once in 6 years. Yet here she was, because money knew the address. She pushed past me without invitation. This place is smaller than I expected. Hello to you too. She ignored that and looked around. The modest sofa, the bookshelf, the narrow kitchen, the life I had built without applause. Then she turned. What are you doing to us? I leaned against the counter. Having boundaries. This is punishment. No, it's absence. You're enjoying this. If I were enjoying it, I'd have posted photos. Her face tightened. You always were cruel when cornered. No, I said. I was useful when cornered. She pointed a manicured finger at me. That house is your father's legacy. That house was your monthly subscription. She inhaled sharply. You owe us. There it was. The sentence beneath every request. I owe them. For being born. For surviving them. For what exactly? I asked. For raising you. I looked around my apartment. The degree I financed. The bills I paid. The promotions I earned. The therapy they never knew about. You housed a child, I said. That was your responsibility, not an investment. She slapped the counter. How dare you speak to me like this? How dare you only visit when the bank is calling? That landed. She looked away first. Then tears filled instantly. We may lose everything. You already did. Your father is ashamed. Then he finally feels something useful. She stared at me like I was someone new. Maybe I was. I don't know who you are anymore, she whispered. I nodded. That makes two of us. She left without apologizing, without reflecting, without seeing anything except herself. Only the smell of perfume and panic remained in my hallway. That night, Dad texted. Your mother shouldn't have gone there. I'm sorry. Then another message, 2 minutes later. The bank gave us 30 days. 30 days. I sat in silence and felt two truths at once. I did not want them homeless. I also would not crawl back into the machine that erased me. Compassion without boundaries had nearly ruined me. Boundaries without compassion were not who I wanted to become. So I did nothing. Sometimes doing nothing is how hurt people stop helping their own harm. Across town, the house I had carried for years was finally shaking on its own foundation, and nobody knew how to hold it up without me. The call came at 11:43 p.m. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then instinct told me exactly who it was. I answered without speaking. You blocked me. No hello. No pause. Just accusation. Yes. You are unbelievable. So I've heard. Her breathing was sharp and dramatic, like she had been pacing for an audience. Do you have any idea what you've done? It's late, Sophia. You ruined my engagement. No, your finances did. She laughed bitterly. You really are jealous. There it is. What? The family religion. If I object to being used, I must be jealous. You've always hated that people love me more. The sentence was so childish, it almost embarrassed me for her. Love? I asked. You mean indulgence? She ignored that. Mom and Dad actually enjoy me. You're exhausting. I leaned back against my pillow. For years, that sentence would have wounded me. Now, it just sounded expensive. You spent your whole life trying to buy importance, she said. That one hit something true. I had spent years buying access. Buying peace. Buying chances. But not importance. That had never been available. I pay bills, I said calmly. You paid for eyelashes. She gasped. How dare you? With my money? Easily. Silence. Then her voice dropped lower. Crueler. No one chose you, Emily. That's why you're like this. For 1 second, I was 12 again, standing in the hallway under her framed crayon drawing. Forgotten. Then the feeling passed. I know, I said softly. She sounded triumphant. Then I finished. So I finally chose myself. I hung up. She called back 4 times. Then, sent paragraphs. I read none of them. Blocked. The next morning, she moved to social media. Black background. White text. Some women can't stand seeing other women happy. Then another. Blood doesn't always mean loyalty. Then a photo of her hand with the ring. Caption. Still blessed. Still chosen. The comments rolled in exactly as she wanted. Stay strong, queen. Family jealousy is real. Haters hate happiness. People love simple stories. They hate complicated truth. At lunch, Nora glanced at my phone. Tell me she did not turn foreclosure into empowerment content. I showed her. She covered her face laughing. She is monetizing delusion. Then my phone buzzed. Dad, I answered. His voice sounded hollow. Did Sophia call you? Yes. For which part? A pause. All of it. That almost hurt more than excuses. Because regret is gentle. And useless when late. She says Daniel is upset, he continued. Why? His parents found out about the mortgage trouble. Of course they did. People can ignore selfishness. They struggle to ignore debt. The wedding may be postponed, Dad said quietly. I felt nothing at first. Then grief. Not for Sophia. For how preventable everything had been if anyone had chosen honesty years ago. She blames you, he added. She should blame arithmetic. He gave a tired laugh. Then silence. Finally, your mother still thinks he'll come around. That phrase again. As if boundaries were a mood swing. As if clarity were temporary.